Hello, everybody. Today is August 5th, 2021, and this is the Operator Framework OLM issue triage meeting. So we're going to kick it off by looking at the OLM issue list and then move to the operator registry issues. Before we kick off, I wanted to see if there are any issues that people wanted to prioritize looking at today. Going once, going twice. All right, we'll just run it ourselves then. So we'll look at this first one. The release changelog needs to be updated. There's a follow-up tracker. The 18.3 release was cut without a root changelog. That was closed in this PR that references it. Approve, cancel, closing as these generated changes. All right, so it seems like this bug is available and probably should be done and pulled into the releases. Does anybody want to take this one on?
So Tim and I were kind of talking yesterday about doing the same thing in the Operator Lifecycle Manager repo that we just did in the Operator Registry repo, which is to use GoReleaser, which can generate change logs based on commit messages automatically at release time. So if everyone is okay with that approach, then that's what I would suggest that we try to do, just to kill two birds with one stone.
Sure. I'm just gonna.
And just to confirm, GoReleaser has the ability to generate a changelog?
Yeah, by default, it just uses it just looks at differences between like current tag and the last tag and just spits out a line with links to the commits for each thing. There's also the ability to like specify a custom changelog file that it can upload automatically for you. So there's a couple options. SDK uses it, I'm pretty sure. I think SDK does like a custom changelog generator, and then GoReleaser updates or uploads it for SDK during the release. So I guess what I'm saying is, if we don't like the commit based changelog, then we can always do our own and have GoReleaser do it for us. But the beauty is that's all part of the automated. Like whenever you push a tag, then it just happens for you.
So is that like a sufficient short-term fix then? Because the only reason I was opening this issue was we ran into some issues. I think Dan might be able to speak to us too, where the changelog being generated just looked off. So I think I was more interested in getting the patch releases for the 0.18 release back up to speed, but I guess we can probably close this out with the introduction of GoReleaser. That's probably, I think there's also the upstream release process issue that we could link to too.
So the chain log command that we use to generate a chain log is not working properly. Is that what it is?
That would be my understanding. It looks like it's pulling in the wrong set of commits.
Okay.
That said, though, I don't think we have any real branching though, and so it might be getting misunderstood there. I'd like to see the whole process overhauled.
Yeah,
anyway,
we had
so
a doc for that.
I don't think we need to harp on this.
Yeah. Okay. So my understanding from this conversation is that nobody feels that strongly or knowledgeable about the existing changelog process, and there is evidence that, people are already looking at GoReleaser as a possible alternative to the existing process and other projects in our framework of offerings. Perhaps it makes sense for maybe Joe or Tim to look at GoReleaser and just kind of also look at the existing way we generate the changelog, make a case for why we should go to GoReleaser, and then push that effort forward.
That sounds good to me. You can assign this one to me. I think we could put it in the, let's see, are we cutting a release really soon, or do we have like a little while?
Yeah, I think Kevin wanted to cut a 19 release, and I was going through the milestones. There's still some stuff we'd probably want to prune, maybe in this call, if that's appropriate.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I would say then
let's
put this in. I would say put this in the 0.20 milestone then, just so we don't block 0 to 19. I don't think this is super important. In the meantime, Tim, did you think it was worthwhile just to go and manually add the change logs for the existing patch versions?
Yeah, I can. I'm pretty tied up, unfortunately, at the moment. I think what we could do is just retitle this issue to overhaul the changelog process. Maybe we can update the patch versions for the changelog out of band.
That seems fun to me.
Did I spell Go Releaser correctly here? Is that how it's spelled, or is there a space?
No, that's right.
Okay, I'm just going to comment that then. Boop. And then, okay, so you wanted to change this to consider migrating towards Go Releaser, right?
I would just do something like investigate overhauling the changelog process, but explicitly calling out Go Releaser is probably fine too.
Okay,
yeah,
and isn't there...
Sorry, Alex, I was just going to say, like, I think part of this is deciding how we want our changelog to look, because there's a bunch of different options, and Go Releaser is only tangentially related.
Okay, and then one last comment. So we had said that the release logs in 18.1, 18.2, and 18.3, minor versions, of course, weren't correct. Did we land on someone who's going to go and update those?
I can just take it.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Okay. So, is the Netcon call?
I am, if you can hear me.
Okay, perfect. It seems like you already started a conversation on issue 2307, which involves pulling an operator image from a private registry with OLM. 2 days ago, it seems like the submitter got back and there hasn't been a response yet. And my understanding is that we already have documents that kind of outline this process. Have you looked into specific concerns here yet?
I have not seen the latest response, but I tried to let the reporter know about our stand. So I'll have to go and check back on the response and just reply to that. But I think we're pretty clear on where we stand with how we use the pull secrets.
Okay, and I'm not super familiar with this process, but we do, the workaround does handle the case that, oh, the operator image itself is in a private repository and it can be pulled.
Right, and we don't want to call it a workaround because that's the way it's supposed to work. But yes, we do have a process of, or we advertise how you can use your private operator and operator images.
Okay, that's everything. Then, in my opinion, I don't want to dirty the waters in this thread by jumping in and commenting on it. Could you just make a note to follow up on this?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll do that.
Okay, is everybody else fine with that? Alrighty, I'm gonna take silence as consensus. Okay, we did that one. We got When bundle unpacking doesn't retry after deadline exceeded, even after resubscribing. So this is issue 2265. He's seen this on multiple occasions, installed a catalog source and subscription at the same time. The image pull hit the Docker Hub rate limits, so the catalog source bundle didn't come out. The install plan went into condition, deadline exceeded with danger alert. Failed bundle unpacking, failed. This message could probably be improved. Reason, deadline exceeded message, job was active longer than the specified deadline. Came back later when cat source was ready and recreated the subscription, and it instantly went into the condition deadline exceeded. Deleting the failed job in OpenShift Marketplace and then creating the subscription allowed the install to proceed.
Yeah, I think this is the existing problem because we actually reserve the job and the part when the job fail actually. So even when you resubscribing to it, we're checking the job already exists because of the name, and we won't create a new job. And the job gonna be stuck in the fail state because it's a job, not a Chrome job, so it's not gonna rerun.
Oh.
So this is a problem there.
Yeah, this. So it did.
I think in the past we actually delete the job run once and disappear. But I think people complaining that there's no way to tell what's happened to the failed job. So I think we end up reserving the job even if it failed, and now it run to the situation that we won't recreate a new job because it already exists.
Yeah. Is it possible to set a job to retry if it fails?
So,
Yeah, there should be.
that yeah, I think that's possible. I guess the thing I was gonna ask is I feel like I'm having deja vu. I feel like we talked about this exact same thing and had the same conversation at the last issue strategy meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan's comments from 2 weeks ago. I think that this is a bug. I think that we can probably handle it most easily by changing the owner ref hierarchy.
Okay.
But yeah, this one feels a little bit. I don't know. We should probably. Is it? Hold on. Can you guys hear me any better now?
Again. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No. All I was saying is I think we already talked about this one.
Okay. Should we be adding the triaged label? It seems like we should.
Yeah. Probably we should if we haven't been.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the last two because I definitely haven't done that so far. Sorry, I typically haven't been leading this mission. Okay. I'm just gonna add triage because I think this will prevent this from happening. Okay, remove broken get. Oh, this one's actually, this was reviewed 14 days ago.
Where did we land on this last time? Because I've definitely run into this and it's pretty annoying.
Well, we didn't close it, so we clearly thought it was a valid case. I don't know that it seems to be pulled into the 0.20 release as a milestone. So, and it's assigned to Kevin.
Is there anything downstream that relies on the 311 tag?
Yeah. No, there totally is. That's the problem. Is until we need to go figure out. There absolutely is a build for 311 that knows about OLM and builds tech preview. I guess the thing I don't know is it actually still hooked up and does anyone actually still use it? So assume, like, I mean, I think we had this conversation already as well, but I think what the action item is one of us needs to go and I don't know. We could always just like remove it, and if we remove it and then something breaks, we know the answer to that. And then if it does, then we can just go set up a repository somewhere else.
It's used in OpenShift 3.11 builds, by the way.
Actively?
I mean, that's how OpenShift 3.11 built. But by using these tags, that's how it was released. But it's definitely out of support now. Right.
Yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into that. I think it's worthwhile for us to get rid of this upstream, but we may have to have a conversation downstream on how to facilitate the removal of this release.
For GoMod, there's a way in the GoMod file to say like revoke this version or something like that that might do what this person wants to do without breaking all of our builds. So that's something we could at least look at. I can't remember the keyword off the top of my head.
So to exclude a release.
Yeah, it basically tells Go modules like not to include that tag in its minimum version selection.
I think it's literally exclude.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just gonna add this comment just so that we don't lose that, because that could be worth checking out. And I think we can leave this here. I think it's already assigned. It's marked triage. We've discussed this before, and we know its importance. So I think the next step is for Kevin to invest some time to figure out how to remove this upstream or modify the Go mod file so it's no longer an issue. Alrighty. CSV. Is this one looked at? Oh, this is that garbage collection issue that we had talked about, where the CSV is the parent or the parent object, and then when it gets deleted, it deletes a bunch of RBAC and pods because it deletes it in a non-defined path. So the deployment could still be running when the deployment could still be running after the RBAC was deleted, right? Yeah. Yep. This. So it's been 28 days since we had an update. It is on the. It's on the release for the. Sorry, it's marked as part of the 0.20.0 release or milestone. It's not assigned to anyone, and is anybody confident that we're actually going to get this fix in for the 0.20 release? Because this seems like it might be a bigger, like it may require a bit more focus than something we can fix quickly and get into 20 unless it's actively being worked on. Kevin,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm thinking in my head.
I'm not convinced this is going to get into 0.20 unless someone is assigned and working on it right now.
Yeah.
And it could also be something that we just kind of try and tackle with the new APIs when we introduce them.
That's what I was thinking. Is this actually an issue on RuckPack?
Do we have a RuckPack label? Because it seems like, you know, like we're designing that new API.
Well, we have a whole repository for it.
That's
right?
fair.
I guess that's what I'm kind of saying is like, should this issue actually just be filed on that repo instead as like a awareness tag?
Yeah, I can take that. I can do that right now, or I can do it. I can sign it to me and I can do it later. Probably better just to do it now. Okay, I'm just going to do it now. Is everybody okay doing that? Sorry.
Yeah, it's
This might
probably
be
worth
a bug in OLM too.
Oh, I think we just,
Lost Alex.
yeah.
We've broken Alex. I see
rage
he
quit.
did join.
I was not expecting that. Sorry. I'm back. Okay. Am I sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so this bug report. The last thing I heard before I closed the screen was that we should create an issue against RuckPack so that this problem isn't lost. Did we have any other discussion that I missed?
I mean, I think it's probably also reasonable to leave this as an open bug. I just think we put it on the backlog since we're probably not going to do something that immediately makes this easier.
Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create an issue here so we don't lose it.
I do think we've been tracking OLM issues that should be addressed in RuckPack a bit differently, but it's probably a good way to propagate those up as GitHub issues anyways.
What have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
I think it's either, oh man, it's like a Google Doc, like a long-standing Google Doc. Not the best format.
I don't know if we have to like decide or think about that right now. You can put it in as an issue right now and we'll figure out what we want to do with it later, right?
That's fair.
There should be a way to configure the order in which bundle resources are deleted. Now, is this really what we want to do? Do we want to allow them control over? Should we allow them to configure which order, or should it be some defined process of deletion?
Well, I think that's TBD. I think the point here is that we have this request and we should probably keep it in mind when we're talking about design. That I know that maybe this is slightly outside of the conversation we're having right now, but Evan actually set up a new
Project
page in Operator Framework. I can throw a link to. Yeah, he set up a new project, which is like, the intention is to translate these sorts of things into proposals. Yeah, exactly. It might, I'm actually, now that I'm saying this out loud, maybe it's fine for us to leave this as an issue. Maybe the suggestion we should make is translate this into an RFE. And then we're going to probably have to have some way of like taking RFEs and turning them into like, how do we, decide or vote or whatever else to turn them into stuff that we're thinking the project should do, and we should start building a proposal or an enhancement for.
I see. Maybe it makes more sense, instead of opening this issue against RuckPack, then just commenting on the original issue, that we've created an RFE for it and outlining that like this is going to require additional thought and we're moving it out of the 0.20.0 release milestone.
I think there's a way to take an issue and add it to that board directly. I know you can go the other direction. You can take a thing from a project board and make an issue for it. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. I do not know how to do that. maybe I'm just gonna add cards. What's cards? Oh, hey, this looks pretty similar. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to see if there's an easy way to do this. If I don't get it in a second, I'll...
You might need to use the is issue instead of open. I'm not sure if that'll help.
Oh. Okay.
And I think I'm way off. I don't mind playing around with this in the background if we want to move on.
Yeah, do you want to... This is silly. Okay. I'm just going to comment on this then. Tim, can you... Okay, here we go. We are going to create an RFE on the operator proposal board. Focuses on improving control. Oh, it's not really focusing on improving control over it. We're really just trying to say that like that focuses on the fact that OLM shouldn't delete resources in a random order. How's it? Actually, look at that. Just gonna say that. That looks pretty good. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to add the triaged. Oh, look at this. Triage unresolved. What is this? See here. Wish it had the full definition. Does anybody know what triage unresolved is usually used for entirely? It will not be.
I think that just means, hey, we looked at it. We don't know if there's an easy solution for this problem. It might be something that we never touch.
Okay, so it seems like we should really be. Should we be using? Should we be using triage unresolved if the issue has? I guess by virtue of the issue still being around, we can infer that we haven't fixed it yet. So I guess triaged is fine.
For the purposes of this meeting and the filters that we use, I think all we look at is whether it's in a milestone or not.
Okay. That's fine. All right. Well, we're at the halfway point. Should we go to the operator registry repo?
Sounds good.
Okie doke.
Is it in scope for this meeting to look at the milestones too, or no? We probably don't have enough time.
I don't know. I mean, maybe we should take a look at the registry first, and assuming that that's, I think there's probably not a ton of stuff there since last time. Yeah, it looks like there's only been 3 new issues filed. It's probably worth looking through these first and then seeing if we can come back.
Okay, let's go through these 3 then. Okay, initiative. The latest version of the upstream OPM builder was released with this commit. Ah. What's this? What did this commit? The object in CSV fields. Okay, so this just removed. This just removed the CSV and object. And what they're saying is prior to that, since it all works fine. Ben Luddy has already commented. Do you see? If so, please watch for a fix in happening 4.7.0 release.
So Ben and I were looking at this a little bit yesterday. That commit is the commit where Ben removed the CSV JSON and objects from the list bundles response.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this legacy mode in I think it's also in the resolver that says like, oh, if I don't see the CSV JSON and I don't have properties or APIs, then like do this other thing. And so now that we're not sending CSV JSON, that code path is tripped. But we've also removed that legacy processing in the resolver in a bug fix that's making its way back to 4.7 as we speak. So Ben's basically saying like, can you confirm that you're seeing this error message? If so, like this will be fixed soon.
I see. He commented an hour ago. He said he gets that error, but the error shows up in the community operators, not theirs. The errors related to the bin binary.
I think that's because that binary that like breaks is because that's the binary that no longer sends the CSV JSON that the code path in 4.7 currently is expecting for this particular operator.
Right. Okay, well, I'm just going to assign it to Ben because he's already working on it, and it seems like he's kind of dealing with it. I'll ping him and just let him know that I assigned it to him after this meeting, and we can just come back to this. It's also the issue that it's like an OpenShift specific issue, so I don't know that this is something we need to discuss much more here.
Yeah, I agree. I think we could close this saying, if you're using, well, we don't have if we had a latest release of OLM that included the bug fix that went in to remove the legacy resolver path, then we could say this is closed. Use this release. We could probably say, here's the commit on OLM that fixes this. You know, if you try with the recent version of OLM, this should work. But I think you're doing the right thing. Let's assign it to Ben, and we can make sure we understood this correctly before we close it out.
Yeah. Okay, move to.
I need to look into this a little bit earlier and more, but I'm a bit surprised by this because that removal thing will make the config map based catalog shop no longer working anymore. So I'm a little bit surprised by this. Anyway, we only move on to the new thing, so may as well. I will look into it a bit later.
Yeah, we'll look into that in the comment on Slack or create an issue if you find anything awry.
I do just also want to throw out that the config map binary in the registry project is deprecated already. I think we have a message about that. So if there's stuff that still relies on it, we probably need to just start migrating off of it rather than not pulling in fixes.
The problem is our end-to-end using the config map a lot. So that's why I'm a bit surprised.
We need to
by
migrate all of that over to declarative config, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do.
And just an FYI, I know what's that team again? We shouldn't mention this on this meeting. Anyway, I will message you guys later on this.
Yeah, you know what? Since this is a big enough conversation topic, how about we just make an issue against OLM that says stop using config maps in E2E desks, and we can make sure that gets addressed, but we also don't have to talk about it anymore here. Is that okay, everyone?
Definitely.
Yep.
That's the wrong thing. It's kind of a feature request. How do we refer to this thing? Config map cat sources.
I'm actually wondering if we need to do more than that in this. I think this is probably the more immediate problem. But I'm just, now that I'm thinking about this, if it has been deprecated from the registry and is going to get removed into releases, I think we need to update the catalog source API so that we don't have that type in the enumeration anymore. Right.
Yeah. So where do we want to put the top level request? Because it seems like, you know.
Well, I'm wondering if we should just do all like instead of framing this feature request as remove stuff from the ETE tests, instead frame it as remove support for config map type catalog sources.
Yeah, this is more than just registry side. It's also on the OM side.
Yeah.
Okay, so config map type catalog sources have been deprecated, but OLM.
So for what it's worth, on that RFE board, there is an RFE to continue supporting config maps, but just assume they have declarative config in them instead of the old format, which seems pretty valuable.
That's probably fair. Is that feels a little bit like a new catalog source type rather than the same one? Or I mean, I guess, I don't know. That feels like a different API.
It can be. That's totally fair. I just.
It also seems like you're drastically changing the API if you don't change the type or at least the version when you make that change, you know?
Yeah, at the very least, we'd probably have to like have some auto migrated thing that oh, see,
I
like,
mean,
oh, this is the old thing, let's convert it to the new thing. But then we'd keep supporting the old thing forever, so.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
for what
how
it's
the
worth, I don't think.
registry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Evan.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that I don't think we've ever said that config map catalog sources are actually deprecated, that I'm aware of. We've just said there's so many features you can't use with these that you probably don't want them.
Yeah, that's correct. That what Evan just said. That what I'm aware of. I'm not hearing anything about removing the catalogs, the config map catalog source completely off the.
I swear we added. This is like, I don't remember. I swear that a PR merge that added a deprecation notice to the registry project for the binaries that actually, like for the initializer, for the registry server
Oh,
binary
that's
and
for
the
the.
config map. That's what I'm.
For
Although
the
now I'm
initializer.
pulling it up. It looks like we actually did not do this for config map server. We just did it for the initializer and the registry server.
That's also a little bit different than deprecating the catalog source API config map type too, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
totally.
I think
agree.
for the. I think the initializer is for the package manifest formatting. I think it's not explicitly for the config map based catalog source. Even though those two come hand to hand because the package manifest format is within the normally using the config map at the storage.
But you know, OLM has to use the config map server binary to actually serve the config map, right?
It uses the initializer to do that.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, so the config map is just the storage essentially. And that go back to the point that Evan mentioned earlier on about the declarative config. You can just using the config map at the storage. It doesn't matter. How you reading the data from the config map is totally up to the registry image. So it can be a massive JSON blob for the declarative config. Oh my God, I cannot say this word. So
yeah, but I think the problem there is that if someone already has a config map populated and we don't change the catalog source API, but all of a sudden the registry binary changes its interpretation of that config map, then we break all those people without actually telling them that they're going to be broken.
that's true, but you can tell what data it is in the config map, right?
Yeah, but on existing clusters, if they're in use, it causes issues.
We would need to. Well, we could build it in a backwards compatible way, right? Like rather than just completely removing this, we could just make it so that we have a new binary when you use config map type catalog source, and that thing also knows how to read the old package manifest style thing, glom it up and translate it into declarative config when it actually serves it. That's an option. I don't know if we want to go out of our way to support that, but if we wanted to make this as seamless as possible, that seems like we could do that.
I think that makes sense to do it in the backwards compatible way, and I also think it will be less destructive to possible users if they exist that have that, and that engineering effort might be worthwhile.
I kind of lean the other way. I would almost say, let's just go ahead and deprecate the config map API on catalog source. Tell people it's going to go away. We can build the new thing that supports declarative config, call it something different, and then we can remove and stop maintaining all of the code that surrounds that package manifest stuff.
Yeah,
it might agree. Also be worthwhile to start tracking what type of catalog source types are being used. You know, we could talk about that outside of this meeting, but that could be useful.
We probably need a separate meeting just for this.
Yep. So, so Kevin and Joe, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to deprecate it? Do we want to do it a backwards compatible way? What's our feeling?
I mean, I guess being community centric, I would say let's put our proposal out there for what we think, and if people come and scream and say, "Oh, you can't get rid of this," then we can reevaluate. But I think what I'm hearing is let's try to remove it.
Okay, so it seems like we just need to create I'm just going to create a change support for config map. Basically, that's what we want to do, right? Like we're just changing our support. We're either doing it in a backwards compatible way or we're moving in a moving forward with just supporting the declarative config being stored in a config map type, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what, we need to support declarative config. What the open question is that a new catalog source type? Is it the existing catalog source type that's also backwards compatible with the really old format?
Okay.
So I would even, yeah.
We have to be a little careful how we talk about this too, because like it will be supported by the existing registry. You know, if you pack the thing in an index image and then host it over gRPC, like that already works for declarative config. This is about having the catalog operator know how to look at a config map and host that as a declarative config rather than some index image that exists somewhere.
Sorry, could you restate that?
So
yeah, so like OLM already supports declarative config via the gRPC API. So I think what we're talking about is supporting declarative config via another API that doesn't require an index image to exist in a repo and likely looks like a config map that's already present on the cluster. Am I getting that right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think the open question is just the catalog source API and how it supports declarative config.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Okay. I'm going to delete this. And that wasn't even related to this bundle, this issue. So I think we're good to move on and discuss the second of 3 issues in the operator registry, moving at breakneck speeds of 1 issue per 20 minutes. So that's good. So this issue was submitted by Ben. Mark required APIs and provided API fields in bundle message as deprecated. So consumers can get the same information from the property/dependency fields. I'm unfamiliar with this space. Does anybody have the ability to weigh in on what Ben is asking for here? Like I understand, I understand the header, but I don't understand why he linked this code.
This is the protobuf schema, it looks like. So I think what he's saying is basically the provided and required APIs are already present in properties, so we don't need to send them in a separate field.
Okay, so this is in the proto. These are their own fields. Consumers can get this information from the dependencies and properties fields. Oh, I see. Okay, so he's just saying you can rip these 2 lines out.
Well, we can't just rip them out though, right? Because today, the registry works all the way back to like what, OLM 1.13 or something like that, and we're attempting to maintain support for that. If we just remove these, that will break that compatibility. So I think that all Ben is asking for here is not that we remove them. He's asking that we mark them deprecated so that in a future release, we can later remove them.
Okay, the fields. I mean, that's basically exactly what he said. What was the version where these fields are being used today?
I
For
just
the
wrote a
release?
number. It's like 113, 114, something like that. Basically,
Okay, I'm just gonna say this
when we
looks good.
aggregated out to properties, like back like a year ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'll just take this one because I should know this how this code works a little better. So I'm just gonna grab it, and it doesn't seem like too much work, so I'll just pull it in. So I'm just gonna triage because
It's not written here, but while you're doing that, Alex, there is a relatively important reason that we need to do this, which is that those APIs still include the plurals, which are not used anywhere else. And so that removing and deprecating these APIs simplifies that whole query process, because you don't have to worry about it.
Sorry,
I guess I say that's
like you're talking about plurals for the CRD type.
Yeah, it's not that important. I was just trying to give some context for why this came up.
Okay, but because they just rely on the GBK themselves right now, right? Not the plurals of the.
Right. Yeah, we don't need the plurals for anything anymore.
Okay. Was there ever a time we used the plurals?
If you have the plural and the group name, you can query for the CRD directly by name, because the CRD's name is always the plural.group.
Okay. Yeah, I think this. Yeah, this was. I think I reviewed.
Yeah, this is just a mirror of a downstream bug that didn't make much sense. I think Eric said he linked a PR, so I think we move on.
Okay, that brings us to the last 5 minutes, and we had talked about looking at the milestones. We want to quickly do that. Yeah, okay. I want to do that, so we'll do it really quick. We've gone through the 3 new issues. So we're going to go here. We're going to go here. So we are not doing an amazing job with the 0.19 release, which we supposedly are going to cut pretty quickly.
I think so. One thing we did on SDK was when we got closer to a release, we'd go through this and say, like, what do we actually have to have for 0.19, and we mark that as a blocker, and then anything else when we get to release day, we could just shift to the next release. So maybe that's the way to spend this time, decide what's a blocker or not.
Okay.
I think 2.1.1.1, the upstream Docker file, should have no shell. That seems like an easy candidate to push out or fix. I don't know. Joe, I think you touched on some of that stuff. Was that always the plan? Or
We
that might have
talked
been
about that, and
Ben.
we went back and forth, and we decided let's leave the shell in because someone might be expecting to use that. But I would say let's punt that to 0.20.
Move this to 0.20. Cancel. Okay. I see. Okay, so we're moving this to 0.20. Modify that. We also may. How do I change this? There we go. All right, that's why they pay me the big bucks. Okay. Next up, we refresh this.
I put a couple of things in the chat, but I think 1784 can just be closed because it's done.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a little bit. We still have like to rip out some of the OpenShift code, but we could probably track that outside of this.
Yeah, I think the purpose of this RFE was to get all of the OpenShift CI stuff out of master PRs, and we did that. So I think that we can close this. If we wanted to file separate stuff specifically for those like release branch things, I think that's reasonable. So I think that's kind of like separate work we should track.
Does that sound good?
Looks good to me.
That's good.
Beauty. Look at that. There's not like a completed phase. Close just seems so negative. Oh well. Okay. Refresh. Any other ones that we wanted to? I haven't looked at your comments in the Google Meet.
Kevin mentioned 1787.
Yeah, 1787 we did a bunch of like back and forth on, and we basically came to the conclusion that we can't really build this safely in the current control plan. So I kind of think this is just something we don't want to do.
Can we dig into that a bit more just in case people want more information?
This was replicated in kubectl operator, right, Joe?
Right. That's exactly the point. Is that but basically what we're saying is this feature should get implemented client side. We have a client that can do this, so if you want it, you can just do it there.
Yep, I agree.
I can put a pointer to that thing.
I don't know if we've actually released a version of kubectl operator that has this in there. We have to go look. Dan,
where is that?
It's just operator framework kubectl-operator. Dan, did you have another PR that was going to make some improvements before we cut a release?
Yeah, I have one sitting open for a while. But I don't know if we want to get that in ahead of the release if we're depending on when we're cutting it.
That's well, today they're just released independently, right? Until we talk about how we would like make all of operator framework, all of these subprojects end up like in the same release cadence. I don't think we need to worry too much about that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any rush on doing a kubectl release. The only reason I mentioned the only reason I bring that up is if we say it's available in kubectl operator, really it might only be available in master. So if you follow the install instructions, like it wouldn't be there potentially.
Alex, Kevin linked the pull request that added this in the chat.
So there's already a PR that added some of this. There's the PR I was referencing just made some improvements, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, so I should just be able to click view this file, and then I should be able to look at the history where it was introduced. Initial commit.
So May 3rd is when we introduced the uninstall stuff, and the latest tag.
It's 45, right? If you just click on that number 45 thing, you can click on that. That's the PR.
There we go.
Yeah, so we need to cut a 0.4 to pull the operand uninstall stuff in.
No, I thought we put a release with the base level uninstall, not?
I don't see one.
Really? That's surprising.
It's super easy. Like if we think we can cut one now, like I could do that today, and then we could look at that other improvement PR and make a 0.4.1 or whatever. So it's no big deal. I just wasn't sure if we were blocked on that other one because the current state of master is not quite what we want or is broken in some way.
So the team has come to the conclusion that this feature cannot be completed safely within OLM. We have introduced the ability to control how an operator is installed via the kubectl operator binary. Might be worth, well.
You could say that this feature will become available in the 0.4 release, in the upcoming 0.4 release.
Zero 0.4?
Yep.
Release. Okay, and before we do that...
We're also over time, so after we do this one, do we want to call it?
Yes, I think so. And Kevin, could you just quickly comment on why this was viewed as dangerous within OLM?
Yeah,
mainly data loss.
Yeah, it's because it's a functionally it's an ordering and race condition, right? We don't know that when we delete an operator, whether or not that operator can even properly handle the deletion of the operands with finalizers. And if we do, there's still a lot of cases where the deletion might have started, it might not have finished. Like we don't know that we can't functionally just like implicitly trust operators to resolve all of this stuff with just by like setting a field on the CSV. So we basically our opinion is just do this client side. The client should be able to understand that the CRs have been completely removed first, and then you can just go and delete your CRD. Even then, right? Like there are still going to be these same issues, but at least it allows the user to get stuff like a confirmation workflow that we just can't provide if it's server side.
The team has come to the conclusion that this feature cannot be completely safely within OLM. Boom. Delivery of the offer rules discussion. So just to make sure that I actually understood this when I was throwing this information out there. So basically, if we add like finalizers, or if we had annotated the CSV with something to indicate to the operator that like, hey, it needs to start cleaning up all its resources, the mechanism for the operator to actually go and clean up everything and communicate that to OLM doesn't really exist. Whereas if we use a client, we can provide like a workflow that guarantees that the CRs are deleted.
Yeah, right. And like the trivial example I would give is if you're on client side and you say, hey, delete my operator, and in doing that also delete all my CRs. What happens if in the process of doing that, because CR deletion takes a long time because it's referring to some AWS resource or whatever else, that in the meantime, another one showed up. It's very, very hard for OLM to be able to recognize that and then deal with that problem, right? You could have caching problems. You could have just ordering problems. There's like a class of race conditions that are really non-trivial that if you just built this client side, you can just get the full list of CRs. When you're done doing the deletion, you can check to see if there still aren't any CRs. And then you can go and delete the operator itself.
Okay, okay, but even in that example, you could just introduce a webhook that prevents the creation of those CRs while this process is running before it kicks off, and then you're basically guaranteed that nothing new is introduced, right? Or is that just a single example?
That was just one example. There's a whole class of race conditions that can be this problem, and the other fundamental problem is there's no confirmation workflow.
Okay, so I'm just gonna. The client should be able to understand that CRs have been deleted before removing this. The client.
All right. I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think we can end it.
But yeah, I think this is fine as is. We should just. We should just be able to close it. I mean, we open this, so.
Yeah.
So before everyone drops, I would just say, go look at that 0.19 milestone, and if anybody has anything that they think is a blocker, just label it that way. Otherwise, we'll probably just cut 0.19 whenever we're ready, and those will all move to 0.20.
Yep.
Same for operator registry.
Yeah, I think we should probably try to do that like tomorrow.
Is there a label for that?
You can create a new label.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, first person to find one can create the label. All right, well, everybody, thank you for attending today's meeting. It was all very valuable having you here, and I'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Alex.